Good day, Bridge Nation. Welcome to the Public Eye. I'm Ronnie Thwaites, and this is a Bridge 99 FM. And it's Wednesday, November the 10th. Ooh, only 52 days left in 2021. And many are looking forward to the festivities that December will bring and the general atmosphere of compassion and generosity. We hope. We really, really hope. Yeah? Everybody needs it, especially after the confinement of COVID. But watch her, she don't left us yet, you know. As usual on the Public Eye, we bring the issues straight to you. No slander, no gossip, just the facts. And just to note that the time for the Public Eye has been adjusted. Previously we started at 11 o'clock and went till 1 o'clock. But now the new time is 12 noon to 2 p.m. As usual, though, we will continue to explore some societal problems with an open mind and seek to find solutions. This morning on Early Rise, I had a robust discussion with my co-host, the Honorable Pernell Charles Sr., on various topics. Foremost among them was the COP26 conference. We talked about climate change, we talked about bauxite mining in protected areas, and the future of mining in Jamaica. You need to know, I'm against any more mining in Jamaica. He's not so sure. He thinks if it's done right, it still has a future. What do you think? Thank you for being part of the Bridge Nation by tuning in to Bridge 99.1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 on the FM dial. And remember, you can also watch our live stream at www.thebridge99fm.com, wherever you are in the world. Remember our telephone numbers. The WhatsApp and text line is 876-551-5782. And the studio line, live and direct. Yeah, you know what live and direct is? Live and direct. 876-676-4996. Shadow Minister of Environment, Land and Climate Change in the People's National Party, Senator Sophia Frazer Binns, joins us to talk about her take on the 26th session of the conference of the party's COP26 to the United Nations Framework Convention, yes, on climate change. It's underway, coming to an end, and she'll be sharing her comments on matters concerning the environment and climate change. What are we getting out of COP26, I need to ask Senator Sophie Binns. And in the second hour of our program at 1:10 p.m., Chief Executive Officer of the National Parenting Support Commission, General Manager Kaysia Kerr, will join us. I'm so looking forward to this. Parenting is critical. This is Parent Month, and we need to be sure that we cover the importance of good family life, of strong parenting in Jamaica. If we take care of that, the crime problem gone down, Also, linking with Janice Blake. Mrs. Janice Blake is the Communications and Marketing Manager for the JDF, that's Jamaica Defence Force Cooperative Credit Union, to speak about the ways the credit union is supporting the veterans of the Jamaica Defence Force. You know we had veterans? Yes, they're not people who necessarily went to war and come back with all kinds of ailments and travails. But there are people who have left the Jamaica Defence Force who the Cooperative Credit Union and all of us should be concerned with. We'll also have our usual New York connection with Beau-regard, live from the studios of our sister station, Irie Jam Radio in New York, in an hour's time or so. And please join the Bridge Nation. You can call us, join the conversation. Our numbers again, 876-676-4996. We'd really love to hear from you. Hey, you have to listen to this station every day, On Monday, during his Jamaica Live show, Bruce Golding spoke about affordable housing, which is a very timely discussion in Jamaica now. Yeah. So was there any answer? Was there any solution to the problem of affordable housing? Do we have high chests? Do we have wrong priorities? Maybe that's some of the things that we're going to talk about. I'm actually very anxious that we should deal with that. There's a big cascade, is it, in Jamaica now about this Ruthven Towers, not far from here, one big high-rise building by Jamaican standards. Not by New York and Miami standards where they go up all 20, 30 floors, and more. This is about, 6? Anyway, it's big for us. And the National Housing Trust has put up this tower. I believe there are more to come. And they are selling for one big money. Yes, big money, over 20 million for a one-bedroom or two-bedroom house is even more, you know. And they say that the prices are due to skyrocketing construction prices because the place is in a stush location. Yeah, stush. And they have, of course, access to many amenities like New Kingston, Halfway Tree, and Kingston 10, Kingston 6, Milieu. Well, we're glad for that. Need the housing. We probably need about 25,000 new houses in Jamaica every year if we're going to house our people. Hey, listen to me. Having a house where you are secure is one of the very important elements of decent life, you know. Okay? So we've been shorting on that for the longest while. And the complaint that many people have is that this particular investment of the National Housing Trust, paid for largely by the contributions of working class people who could never afford what is $20+ million for a house. Not saying it's not valued that, you know. Who could say that? But we have to, as I believe Bruce would have been discussing on Monday, a different view to how we spend the money on housing and sending the people way out of, I don't want to say way out of bush, but you know what I mean, far off to Old Harbour and Four Paths and so on. Yes, of course, but the truth of the matter is that that sets up another set of problems. I know families out there who have to wake up at 4 a.m. every day in order to get the children to school because the amenities haven't followed the housing as quickly as they should. And there is a serious concern, which I believe the promoters of this scheme and the management of the National Housing Trust, for whom I have respect, need to take into account. A young administrative executive in a enterprise that I am connected with. This is a person with 2 degrees, you know, wanting to own something for herself, having worked a few years, saved up something, joined the housing trust. And when she goes to the open house for this Ruthven tower, she has to leave quickly because she can't afford it. Even if they give her a full mortgage, she cannot afford it. So, National Housing Trust, how those people have to feel? They must just hold on and till you come up with something else. In the area of the city that I used to represent as a member of parliament, I faced a crisis of conscience when people asked me whether they must contribute to the housing trust, because when they take little money out, the minimum wage, I remember, is almost 60% of Jamaicans, workers now, not unemployed, nearly 60% of them earn minimum wage or slightly above, you know. Yeah? That is what, $7,200 a week. That is about what, $40 US. Hey, diaspora, you're hearing that? So when these people pay housing trusts now, they can't get a benefit, you know. But they are financing the benefit for people who are earning much more and can manage. Tell me something, is that right? What do you think? No, it's not true. They can get a benefit, some of them, if they really try hard over a whole heap of years. And if they have Auntie Rochi in New York or somewhere else to help them, they can. But they're going to have to go way out in St. Catherine or way out in St. Thomas to get it. But they work in Kingston. So the money, the house that they get now, the money that it costs for the gas and the transport, yes, and the long commute, spoil up the whole thing. So we need to use the money that people contribute into the housing trust. Hello, Dr. Nigel Clark. Not to back up the budget, right? That they done. That was only reasonable when we had IMF on our back. Now we have to use it to build low, reasonable cost housing, not low cost housing. Yes, there are plenty places in the inner city, plenty big yard, where if people had access to $5 million over 40 years at 2%, what they could do to make life and family. Hello, we're going to talk about family. This is Parent Month. what they could do with that to make life so much happier. Build a little bathroom, have an bedroom so that the children could grow up. Everybody don't have to pack up in one place. Yes? Have a little place where you can relax into the big yard. All of those things could be responsibly done. So we have to change the whole way that we think about housing, where we think about it. Yes, the people want to move out of the inner city. No, the inner city is only like what it is because the inner city has not been invested in for such a long period of time. One, the answer is not to buck down everything and try to build up expensive condominium. We want to maintain those communities and to make use of the huge investment in infrastructure. What is that? Roads, sewerage, electricity, water, all those services which are already there. And since you have them already there, then the use of them, the renewed use of them, yes, can in fact lower the price of the final product. Yeah. So I have a lot to say about that, and I hope you agree with me. I hope you'll share with me, and you can critique what I've said too, you know. There we go. Hey, there's some good news, you know. The World Health Organization tells us that we are soon going to get nasal sprays and oral medicine that can help us with the corona. Boy, I would have loved that, you know. By the way, I'm fully vaccinated and nothing known to me. Yes? And I am anxious that everybody that around me is fully vaccinated as well. And let me tell you, you say you want a choice? Okay, have your choice. But every choice has consequences. And the consequences are that if you decide that you are not going to be vaccinated and you therefore are at risk in an extreme way, which the vaccinated person is only in a lesser way, please keep to yourself. Okay? That has to be clearly understood, you know. And don't expect that the world is going to revolve around your choice. That is a false liberalism. That is libertinism. Okay? So we all have choices, but we have to understand that there are obligations connected with those choices as well. That's what really makes a difference. And so, just a word from me, looking forward to the new medicine. Actually, what I'm really looking forward to is the vaccine that is going to be able to be administered to the little picnic, so that all can go back to school. The primary school children are in trouble, you know. Yes, and those that can go back to school, okay, that's good, but only half of them really getting to go. And therefore, we want the vaccine to make it more acceptable, to make it make people feel better protected when those children go back to school. Have to get back to school now. Yes, I noticed opposition spokesman on education, Angela Brown-Burke, weighing in on this matter. Want her to be firm. Want the churches who own most of the schools to be firm. We can have full education and safety at the same time. Why are we running away from it? Why are we being shy? There's so much more to come. Sophia Frazer Binns is our guest coming up, opposition spokesman on climate and environment. You'll want to hear what she has to say. This is The Public Eye and The Open Mind. Senator Binns, good day to you, my lady.
Good day to you, Reverend Thwaites. How are you?
I'm so glad to have you, Sophia. I'm well, thank you. Senator Sophia Frazer Binns is an attorney, and she's the Shadow Minister of Land, Environment and Climate Change. Sophie, what should Jamaica expect? What do you expect from this very well publicized and hugely attended COP26 conference in Glasgow? Is there anything in there for us, you think?
Well, in one word, I would expect a recommitment to the protection of the environment. You're quite correct when you said that it has been very publicized, and perhaps even more publicized than COP16 in Paris. But I think it has been so publicized because there has been an increased awareness by persons on the importance of protecting the environment, the importance of restoration, and the importance of adaptation For us locally, I think perhaps more than ever before, there has been a coming together of all the different stakeholders in a recognition that we must come together to protect Jamaica. And particularly because we're a small island developing state, we have to do what we must to ensure that we can adapt and we can survive. And I'm hopeful that coming out of all of this and all the discussions that have taken place and all the commitments that have been given, that Jamaica will play its part with a recommitment to the protection of the environment.
From the standpoint of the People's National Party, what is it that we should be doing? Sophia Frazer Binns, this station and this program is particularly geared and beamed to Jamaican lovers in the diaspora, and they're scratching their heads and wondering, Jamaica's so beautiful, Jamaica seems so pristine, especially when looked at from abroad. What is it that you think we ought to be doing that we're not doing?
Well, certainly, to start, we have got to relook at the leadership of the country, because you know that leadership drives actions. And so leadership in terms of the protection of the environment has got to be unequivocal in what we say, unequivocal in what we do. And that will set the tone to say we as a nation are serious about it. And when Jamaicans see the leaders getting in line and showing the commitment, not just by words, but by actions, then I believe that they too will also fall in line. But in addition to the leadership, I think what is missing in our environmental advocacy is just sharing of information, and information that is set in a way that everybody, the man on the JUTC bus can understand, the man down in St. Thomas on his farm can understand, as well as the person up in Cherry Gardens. What we have found is that when we talk about the environment and climate change, that the discussion has been so academic, so scientific, which we ought to be, it ought to be scientific, but it's so academic that the regular Joe can't really understand it. And so what we have got to do to get the buy-in and to get people to become more conscious is that we have to break the information down in a way that everybody understands. But also, we also have to let them understand that climate change has a direct impact on you, on your livelihood, on your family, on your own existence. And if we can do that, then I think we'll start something really good.
There are three things, and very practical ones, that I'd like to put to you and get your position and that of the People's National Party. How can we talk about being serious about climate change, about mitigation of pollution, when we continue to dump most of our garbage in the sea, ma'am?
Yes, and that is something that, first of all, the issue of waste disposal is something that I think as a country we have got to take on head on. We have been tinkering for too long with waste disposal and what it means and how we should deal with it. The issue of separation at source has got to be done. You know, in countries such as the United Kingdom, it is something that is done. And if you do breach that, then there's a penalty. So we have got to start with waste disposal, and the government, whoever the government is of the day, has a role to play to ensure that the resources are provided for that purpose. The second thing as well is our collection. Listen, you know, you hear stories in the media day in, day out about garbage not being collected for weeks. Persons are forced, you know, it's certainly not a justification, but persons are forced to dispose of their garbage in other ways. And thirdly, the anti-litter law. For years, more than a decade, we've been talking about the anti-litter law, and we have not done anything at all to give force to that, to give it some teeth. And so these are some of the practical things that we have to do. And education, I can't overemphasize the importance of educating. Educating. We have got to do that. We supposedly pay for waste disposal from land taxes, property taxes. Yes.
And we continue to collect taxes based on the unimproved value of land, when in fact the improvements bring about usually a greater quantity of waste and a greater pressure on the system. Would the People's National Party consider changing that so that we would have adequate funds to do garbage disposal, and in fact to let those who waste most, have most to dispose of, pay for it more than they do now?
I think it is a proposal that we ought to pay some attention to, do some research around it. And you know, one of the benefits, if there ever is a benefit of being in opposition, is that it presents an opportunity for us to do research, for us to adapt best practices. and to have policy positions so that when we become the government, we're able to implement. And I think that is one of the things that has a lot of merit and we certainly should look into.
Second thing that I'd like to ask you, same questions about, is what about squatting? Because one of the greatest sources of environmental degradation is the fact that people settle on land anywhere, riverbank, gully corner, impossibly hillsides, and we everybody says this is coming to an end, but it's not. It's increasing as economic conditions deteriorate, and as there is an absence of alternative for the majority of our people. How would our party, the People's National Party, how would it deal with that?
Well, you're correct about squatting, and you can't divorce the conversation of squatting with climate change and the environmental protection, because you're quite correct that a significant percentage of a person squat. They squat in disaster-prone areas. We're talking about our coastal communities, and they're the ones who are most impacted when we have natural disasters. Certainly, from where we stand in the PNP, it is something that we have. It is a sore that we have got to deal with. I like to use the word tinkering approach has not worked, and it cannot work because increasingly more and more persons are squatting. So what we have to do is to take a radical approach to this. I start, for example, that one of the things that we have got to do, more than 50% of squatters squat on government land. Yes? And so one of the things we've got to do is we've got to look back and say, how can we use some of the Crown land, because as you know, the Crown is the largest landowner. How can we use some of these Crown lands and assist persons in having formal settlements? It may require infrastructural development, it may require relocation, but I think that the government ought to start with itself by utilizing Crown land. The other thing as well is that we have got to find a way to either utilize the existing laws or develop new and far-reaching and modern laws to help persons to get titles to their property, because too many persons continue to live in areas that have been living in for many years and still have not been able to obtain titles. And notwithstanding what the NLA has done in the amendment to the Special Provisions Act and the Registration of Titles Act, we still have too many persons who cannot obtain titles for property. And then the cost of housing, it breaks my heart when you look at what's happening at NHD and the Youthland properties and the cost. NHD is supposed to primarily help persons to be able to afford housing and build affordable housing. And we can't encourage persons to get out of informal settlements when the government body that is charged with developing affordable housing is pricing housing at such an exorbitant cost. So we have got to look back at the housing price as well to make it affordable and to incentivize persons to be able to purchase properties.
Sophia Frazer Binns, one of the greatest instances of environmental degradation in Jamaica's history has been the rape of our land to mine bauxite. Does the People's National Party not agree that that has to stop, that the returns do not justify, such as they are, which I don't know if you know about, but I don't, whether it's levy or profit share and how much it is. But when we are faced with choices about denuding and craterizing, if I can coin a word, parts of the cockpit country, parts of St. Elizabeth as is now being planned, yes, can any money at all be commensurate to that irretrievable loss of environmental integrity, Sophia Frazer Binns?
Absolutely not. And, the People's National Party's position is very clear. Certainly, in the last 5 years, we are very, very clear as to what should happen in terms of mining. What is required is a cost-benefit analysis. What is required is for there to be a buffer zone. What is required is no mining in the cockpit country. What is required is that we've got to find alternative to bauxite mining. Listen, we understand that mining has helped. I mean, it's over, I think, maybe 2.5% of our GDP, so it does make a contribution to us financially. We understand the school implication in terms of it builds basic school, the employment implication, the number of persons in communities who are employed. We understand that, and we get it. But the fact is, when you look at the total picture, so many persons are impacted negatively. So you have to wonder, is it worth it? And from where we stand in the opposition, the People's National Party's position is that time has come for us to look at alternatives and for us to do a cost-benefit analysis. The implications and the impact as we have seen them at this point, even without a quantitative analysis, far outweighs the financial benefit that we're deriving as a country. And our people, their livelihood, their health are at stake, and we've got to take a second look at that.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that. That's a settled position, a new position. I left a resolution on the table of Parliament asking for that cost-benefit analysis to be done of the bauxite industry, and got no support, Sophia. I'm so glad now that we're prepared to do that. And indeed, I'm wondering, even without the formal resources of government, this is something that should be done, should be insisted upon by a political party, a progressive political tendency, the civil society. Otherwise, the bulldozers are going to move in next month or the month after, ma'am.
Absolutely. And, and part of what we have to do as well is we have to educate, we have to talk with our persons, because I do recall being in St. Anne, and I recall being in St. Louis and touring these bauxite communities, and you hear persons, and there is a real concern they have, because some of them really appreciate the funds that are paid, whether as dust nuisance or as lease for the property. They appreciate it because it's just their economic reality, and I could never downplay that, because it is their livelihood, and I completely understand and appreciate and I sympathize with them. But on the other hand, there's so many, when you hear the parents talk about the children who can't go to school because they're having respiratory challenges, when you see some of the water, because in these areas you can imagine there's a lot of rainwater harvesting, and you see the water and the water coming out of the tank because of the dust nuisance, and you see some of the plants. I remember being in St. Elizabeth and I saw some plants, and the community persons, and I'm not an agronomist at all, but the community persons will tell me that all of these are impacted by the dust and nuisance in the different communities. And these are some of the things that you really have to stop and think about. And the balance is so important. And the cost-benefit analysis, it cannot be done too soon. You have called for it. I know Senator Bunting has called for it. I have called for it. And I can say unequivocally that the People's National Party's position is that a cost-benefit analysis must be done. Because though we being the PNP, have always been, celebrating and supportive of the bauxite industry. And it is our history. The fact is that with so much more information available, and now seeing where we are, we're heading into a cockpit country for mining. Yes. I'm not talking about the boundaries that have been defined in the 27th Declaration in Parliament, but the cockpit country as you know it. I'm a girl from St. Anne, and I know the cockpit country is wider than the boundaries that have been defined. Sure. And when we start going into the cockpit country, when we start imposing on our maroons, then we have to stop and say, time comes. Is it really worth it? And so the opposition stands prepared to work with the government and any stakeholders who is prepared to have a conversation on the future of the bauxite industry.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. Hope that we will be able to proceed along those lines and bring changes. So, Senator Sophia Frazer Binns, much obliged to you. Thank you for your time today.
And thank you so much for having me.
Shadow Minister of Land, Environment and Climate Change, broadcasting to the diaspora, Senator Sophia Frazer Binns. Soon come, there's much, much more. This is the Public Eye and the Open Mind. Crossing the bridge. Thanks for being with us on the Public Eye and the Open Mind. This is the Bridge 99. Hello, Mrs. Blake.
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome. Mrs. Janice Blake is the Marketing and Communications Manager for the JDF, that's the Jamaica Defence Force Cooperative Credit Union. Mrs. Blake, I didn't know the JDF had a credit union. Is it a long-standing thing, and what are the main purposes?
Absolutely. We have been in existence since 1963.
Wow.
That's 1 year after the JDF was formed.
Yes.
And our mandate has been to enhance the financial well-being of members, and we have been doing that so much that we have been winning awards. We are the award-winning credit union, large credit union of the year, medium credit union of the year for 6 consecutive years.
Great.
So we have been doing some good work, although we are within the JDF space primarily.
Yes. Well, your bond is just for JDF members and their families?
Families, and in recent times we have extended it to include employees in organizations that are associated with the JDF or do business with the JDF. So if you're in an organization right now that Does any business with the JDF or the credit union,
Yes.
For example, or utility companies, yes, or if we, for example, Group 99, if we do business with you, then you definitely the staff of that organization
can come and join too. That's nice.
Yeah.
And what do JDF members save mostly for, and what do they borrow mostly for? And are they good borrowers and savers, Mrs. Janice Blake?
Yes, we have benefited from the financial standing of our members. It continues to grow. Our members are mainly, of course, in the youth population. That's a growing population. So the need for housing and other personal, needs. We would be using those, whether it is a motor vehicle, education, family. That is always growing, and of course, the older population, that's for retirement, investment, and loan for any purpose, savings. Again, we also have some of the we're leading in interest rates and total payments on whether it's short-term or long-term savings and insurance. So we take care of a wide range of needs for the membership, and of course they have supported, and we have in turn supported. So being a part of the Jamaica Legion Party Appeal was a natural fit for us. We continue to support.
Sure, coming to that, but it's we wanted to radiate a lesson to our audience abroad and locally. Within the JDF, you get a monthly pay, and therefore it is so important that every recruit, every young person being trained in the programs of ancillary to the JDF should begin a habit of saving. It is our savings rather than our borrowings from people abroad that are going to make Jamaica ultimately safe and prosperous economically, isn't it, Mrs. Blake?
Absolutely. And we always recommend, especially as you rightly said, in that especially the first 6 years of contract of the soldier,
yes,
there is so many dreams that they can begin to set the foundation for,
exactly,
saving,
right,
and then investment. And so, definitely the credit union has a number of products that we have, just formulated for that purpose,
sure,
and our members have benefited.
But the credit union is a poor man's bank in this country, Your credit union doesn't have this vast panoply of fees and extortionate arrangements that other financial institutions have. You are governed by the people, by your members, for your members. Am I right, ma'am?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
our members are also owners.
Yes,
so
profoundly democratic, profoundly egalitarian in a society which is so congenitally unequal. And then, of course, you're going to tell me how you care for those who you call veterans and those who have served the country in various capacities in the army and now need special attention. Tell me about that.
Yes, indeed. Through the Jamaica Legion and, of course, the special initiative through the Jamaica Legion Poppy Appeal,
right,
this is a great opportunity, and the credit union always is on board to lend financially to these efforts where persons have served their nation.
Remind us again, the Jamaica Legion is the association of former army personnel, eh?
Right. The Jamaica Legion is the vehicle through which the Poppy Appeal is achieved its goals. I'm sure you have been hearing
sure.
that.
No, we understand that. And linking it. The Poppy Appeal, for the young people who may not be so familiar, is that red rosette, which is available for a contribution every November, is it?
October through to November.
And reminds us of the supreme service that many people, Jamaicans as well as others, give to the cause of freedom and have done so through the great wars and even in maintaining peace up to now, eh?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And especially the families of veterans, they should never be in want. They should never be in a situation where they're not sure where their next meal or, their needs are being provided for. And this is one of the initiatives that ensure that, the persons having served so well, we now serve them very well.
Yeah. So how does the credit union contribute to this, to the Poppy Appeal and to the veterans?
we are one of the major sponsors. We have made a cash donation to this venture, and it was a significant contribution as well. And I'm sure it will be going towards the very veterans and families that need the support. And we definitely, as a credit union, endorse this event, welcome as many persons to be on board to support this great initiative.
Good, that's very important, and I hope it's not going to be just a one-off thing, Mrs. Blake, but that you'll continue this kind of bonding and covenant with the cause, will you?
Absolutely. The JDF and the JDF Credit Union, we call it a legacy of partnership, and we will not be removing ourselves from that. We are here, we are family, we are part of the community, and we make our presence felt in many, many ways through various opportunities. So absolutely, we couldn't say any better. We're not going anywhere. Okay.
Well, now, I'm interested in recruiting Jamaicans and Jamaican lovers, wherever they are, to the credit union movement. The credit union movement started in the 1940s with 13 shillings and sixpence, and now has grown to be a multi-billion-dollar, most responsible, most responsive element of the financial arena in Jamaica. Soldiers who have left the force, members of the security forces who often go abroad, their families, suppose they want to join a really strong, proactive, personalized credit union like the JDF. What they do, Mrs. Blake?
Membership is easy. Most of our applications can be accessed these days online, as well as through our socials, Facebook, www.jdfcreditunion.com.
Tell me again, www.jdfcreditunion.com. Oh, that's easy. Okay.
Yes. We're also located in Up Park Camp, and we service our members through the various bases.
Right, the various army bases. We really want to encourage that. There's nearly 1 million members, or maybe they've crossed the 1 million mark now, for all the credit unions in Jamaica. And I'm particularly attracted to some of the more specialized credit unions like yours. And I would love to see that membership increase double, ma'am, as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
That's to the benefit.
As long as you are a part of an employee in the JDF, whether it is military or civilian.
Yes.
Also, if you are related, not just spouse.
Sure, you will find a way to relate us when we come to join.
Say again, sir?
You will find a way to relate us when we come to join.
Absolutely. Jamaicans are so connected, so we can find a way to relate you.
But look,
if you're interested, just contact us through our website or email info@jdfcreditunion.com as well.
info@jdfcreditunion.com. Now, listen, this is important. Let me draw it out in a final sentence, because we need to build institutions of thrift, of responsiveness. The credit unions don't treat their members as some kind of economic integer, some statistic, some outcrop of technology that you send a paper to once in a while. You treat them as people. You talk to them. You listen to them. You bond with them. True? And this is the spirit working through an institution that is the only hope for Jamaica to really become a peaceful, calm, and responsive society, Mrs. Blake.
Definitely, sir. You couldn't have said it better, Mr. Thwaites.
Yeah.
We are family. We always.
I love that. Yeah.
The JDF, the credit union movement and the JDF credit union as family. And when you join us, you will have an instant connection. We will speak to you, hear your personal plans, and we will have a staff that will help you, walk with you through those plans, and make sure that every step of the way we're helping you to do that in a responsible way. We're not inviting our members to take, for example, loans that you cannot afford, and they put them in a position of disadvantage.
Thrift and prudence
are going to help you towards your financial goals in a responsible way, where you're built with each transaction and with each connection. So we look forward to welcoming you as our next And you too.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, Miss. A bit old, but yes. And thank you so much for the philanthropy and the linkage, the covenant that you're showing with the veterans, particularly at this time of year, with the Poppy Appeal and your own gifts. Much obliged, Mrs. Janice Blake, Marketing and Communications Manager for the JDF Cooperative Credit Union. We welcome you on the Bridge 99 FM. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. And all the best to you.
Thank you.
And yourself.
Blessings.